Welcome everybody back to the Growing Money with Sean Trace podcast. I've got a really awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Hey there. Well, I'm a really awesome guest. No.
Right? That's it.
My name is David Gibbs, and I'm a financial and career coach. And really, I help folks with behavior change. You know, they have to find their reasons why they have to go through it. I'm kind of like akin to a gym coach. I'm there to kick their butt, keep them accountable, and keep them moving forward and say, come on, one more rep. And
that's awesome.
So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. And just to be a little fun, I'll turn it all around on you, Sean. I would love to know how you got started in podcasting. What made you want to do that?
Well, I dove into this because, and first of all, I enjoy conversations with people. I love having conversations. I remember in college, I would sit down with people and just sit and just have great conversations. And what I noticed is that those conversations always allowed me to discover more and to learn. And I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. Just finished my MBA, and I did my MBA last year because I grew up without money information. I had a lot of school. I was always top in my class. I had great information, but when it came to money, I still feel a bit like an idiot. And this was kind of my way of sitting there going, well, I want to learn about money, and there are classes, there are places, but then I want to talk to people. I want to talk to people that are good at this, that have a different mindset at this. And so I kicked off this podcast when I was going through my MBA. And I have another podcast that's just talking to awesome people, but it's all walks of life and of all types of things. But this is really financially focused. And the biggest motivator for me was that I've got an 8-year-old daughter. And I'm sitting there and I'm tasked with trying to teach her financial information and financial literacy. Like tonight, she was like, Daddy, I want to get a new skin in this video game. And I was like, well, we're going to be shooting. She's got a YouTube channel that I do with her. It's not hers. It's I teach kids stuff because I like sharing information. So it's a real awesome channel that we share all these fun videos that are just really great, informative type stuff. And it teaches her about work. And I tell her, that's your job. And when she does a video with me, I give her, it's like $3 or $4 slave wages, but but she's able to spend that on whatever she wants. And so when we did our last video, she bought a new skin and it was $2. And then she was like, I want this new skin. And I was like, literally, you just bought like a bunch of these things. They come in packs. And then she's like, this one's $7. And I was like, yeah, no, we're just not going to go there. That's a bit much for, that. But at the same time, if she wants to save up from her different shoots, it's something that we can talk about. But as I'm trying to teach her, I'm sitting there going, hang on, is that a okay expense? Is $6 or $7 too much? It's like, and I want to have a real firm grasp on it's not too much and why, or it is too much and why. And that why is why I started the podcast. So it was kind of just to get, I had the greatest, most awful compliment the other day. Some of the guests came on and she's like, I get what you're doing. It's awesome. No one else is doing this. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's kind of like the Idiot's Guide to Personal Finance. I was like, I actually love that. I love that book series, and I do feel like an idiot. And that's okay, because it's okay to admit when you don't have information, and it's okay to want to get it. And that's why I come and meet people like you.
What I really love about that is that also, because I'm a huge Micro fan, big Dirty Jobs Micro fan. Do you know that show?
Yeah, dude, I love Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
Just real fast. I would love to create a Dirty Jobs where it's like older people in the AI revolution going out and finding new careers, and they just trying out stuff, your job is now redundant. But I mean, and maybe they don't, or maybe they evolve, but like still finding a Dirty Jobs look at that, because man, I love Dirty Jobs.
I thought about that is because that's kind of what you're doing, because Mike Rowe, he would go in that I'm the idiot, you're the expert. And he would learn all those jobs in that mindset and from that approach.
I never thought about it that way, but you're totally right. He did play the idiot. Even if he might have known something, he always went in there and was just like, wow. Well, and there is knowledge. Like in a micro dirty jobs, just side reference, nothing to do with money, but absolutely everything to do with awesome in a weird way. I was I live in Southeast Asia. I live in Vietnam, and the other one time we have this weird thing where the city, you know, divided up streets and put down the plumbing before a lot of the houses were built up. And so what is now like the front entry of my house and all of our neighbors' houses, the main city like drainage line goes underneath the front of the houses. And there's an access point in the parking area for my house. And so when that people here will chuck trash around, and it's really a lot of littering and just a bunch of junk gets in there built up. And my neighbors were doing a bunch of construction, so they got some different rocks and gravel got washed into the drain. So they regularly have to go in and clean it out. And going in and cleaning it out is literally what I'm saying. Going in and cleaning it out. And how it works is there's a dude who rolls up and he's got like a jumpsuit on, like a one piece, like construction clothes. And he just lowers himself all the way in to like this into sewage water that is completely untreated. It is like brown sewage water, and he just sits there and he's feeling around for stuff and he's pulling things out and he's pulling out. And it's just like every time I watch that, I was just like, I can only imagine you watch dirty jobs and you don't get the immersive experience like of how Mike Rose is like, this stinks.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen people up close doing some of that's wild.
Yeah. So to talk a little bit about money, can I coach you a little bit?
I'd love to hear, man.
Question for you from what you brought up.
Right.
With your daughter, does she get any other money from anywhere else, or just the slave wages from the show?
Right now, the slave wages from the show, but there is an influx of money. We've been looking at, and this is something that guests go back and forth about, like the value of allowance. And I grew up with allowance, and that's something that I really want to instill because I've always had a really high work ethic, and I think it was just my upbringing and my parents. And yet, I've seen, and nothing, I'm not putting anyone else down, but I see my daughter kind of having some models in different people around her that are not as high of a work ethic and drive. And there's no judgment on that. Everyone goes a different way. I'm the type that will just, I'm like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah.
And that's not always good too. But I do want to instill in her the idea of understanding of kind of working for things. So there is that is being discussed, and why it hasn't been, it's my follow through, sadly. I need to keep working on that. But the other thing is that she gets money for birthdays and New Year's, but that's kind of it that she doesn't get other than pulling from dad and mom. Though my wife did buy her a wallet so she can carry her own money and have an understanding of buying her own and purchasing her own things.
Well, would you like to hear my system?
I would love to.
Yeah. So I have two little boys. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and this is what we do. We don't call it allowance; we call it commission. So
I love that.
You work and you get paid. They have these two sheets on our fridge and broken down into chores. Now, we have figured out there are chores that are just being part of the family, like you just need to do, you just need to make your bed and things like that. And then there are extra chores like getting the mail, setting the table, putting the dishes off the table. One boy sets, one boy puts the dishes in the sink and all that. And we have those broken down. And if you do this and we have a checkoff box every single day for when they do it. And it's cool. My wife is a graphic designer, so she made these sheets for the boys.
Which is awesome.
And each Sunday is payday. So they come, They bring me their worksheet. So like their work hours and things they done. And then of course my wife and I were checking on it during the week, and then they turn in and I give them their money for the work that they did. So it's piece by piece, like the way, because I think a good mindset is how can I set them up now to start getting them used to the way life works. You turn in your sheet, you get paid. You turn in something and you get, paid for it. And then I like to use the word commission because allowance is like, I'm allowing this for you. You're not doing anything.
Yes.
I'm just allowing you to have it. You know, commission is, that's the way life works. I work and I get paid. And what I love is it took a while to get the wheels turning, but my boys finally get it now. So like this morning, I forgot to pay them yesterday. And they're like, Dad, you didn't pay us yesterday. I want, you know, I turned in my sheet. Now that I'm like, okay, I've got them on my desk. I'll get you your paycheck. Okay.
Right? That's awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Chasing down you.
And
Come on, man, pay us on time.
but look at that. Like this is how life works.
100%. This is something that I was like, I still teach. I've got like 5 jobs, but I still, one of my main gigs is I teach kids English in Southeast Asia. And then I love it, actually. I love being a teacher because I love just not teaching what I'm teaching from the book, but teaching for life, you know? And there was a kid tonight in my class that was like, I don't want to do this activity. And I was like, tough. I don't care. That's your responsibility right now. You got to do it. And like, this was prepped. Everyone else is doing it. You got to do it too, man. He's like, but
and that's the key with my kids. If they don't check it off and we see that they didn't do it, they're not getting paid for it. And that's why each thing is broken down like that. So it's not like you're getting paid anyway. No, there's a possibility that if you don't do it, you're not getting paid.
right. And this is something that I mean, it is so important to instill right now because I think that there are a lot of people that don't get that. And I'm not going to throw any former students under the bus, but you know, I was teaching at a university in the States remotely. And it was amazing to see the number of people that were coming up with the most elaborate reasons for not getting work done. And I was just like, and I'm like, I totally appreciate that, man. We all have things happen and go on. You know what, Professor Trace, I've got this and that going on. I was like, dude, I can appreciate that. I'll work with you to get your stuff in. Totally, get it in. All right, but I don't know if I can get it in. I was like, I understand that. And I appreciate that. But you also have to appreciate that you're not going to get credit for that because that's just not how it works. Well, Professor Trace, I really need to pass this. And I was like, I want to talk to you about something. When you're about 6 months away from graduation. Yeah. You excited to work? Totally. You know what's going to happen when you tell your first boss that you've got stuff going on and you can't get that project done for your work? Well, hopefully they understand. No, you're going to get fired. It's like, that's it, man. It's like teaching those lessons and that there are, you know what, you don't do the work. I mean, that's and I love the commission thing because I love the idea of commission. I love the idea of you put in the work and you get paid, man.
And we'll see how it works in 10 years, but I think I'm setting them up on the right path.
I hope, I went to a school when I was younger and it was interesting. Looking back, my high school was kind of weird. My parents worked there and it was a boarding school and they had an interesting thing that they did. And it wasn't like a fancy rich boarding school. It was on its last legs. The year after I graduated, it shut down. But they had a great concept. The juniors, the freshmen and the juniors would study in the mornings. And sophomores and seniors would study in the afternoon. And in the mornings, when the freshmen and juniors study in the morning, the sophomores and seniors would go to work. They had all of these different jobs around the school. You could work in the dorms. You could work. We had 2 factories on campus. One was a factory of packaging things. Shimano would ship their fishing reels from Japan to the U.S. in a cardboard box, and we would have to repack them into like a plastic container that you would see hung up at like Walmart or something. And what was really interesting is that all of these 13, 14, 15-year-old kids were like learning, dude, I can make money. And there were 2 things that were interesting. One is they could get paid by their time, and there was a minimum wage, and you had to get at least a certain amount done per hour. Or you could get paid by piece. So if you did, your goal was to get 100 pieces done in an hour, something like that, right? But if you did 150, you got paid for 150. You did 300, you got paid for 300.
There we go.
The school gave a couple options. One, you can finish your shift in an hour if you can get 3 hours done in one. and then you go home and you got your work done for the day. Option two, you can work 3 hours and get 9 hours worth of pay if you can keep that pace up. And it was really interesting because I had a couple of my friends that not only were able to assist their parents with tuition, they were making good money, because they were working a 9 hour a day and in 3 hours. So essentially like they had a full-time job, and they were a student that was only working 3 hours a day, and like they were crushing it.
You know what that makes me think of is the number one lesson that my dad taught me when I was little that has really trickled into every single job I've ever had, every single part of my life. And this is kind of funny, but in my mind, because of what he taught me, I'm basically on a constant mission to be lazy. And I'll tell you the
I
whole
love
story
this. Talk to me about this.
because he would say this over and over again: do what you have to do so that you can do what you want to do. And so,
Yes.
so starting as a little kid, oh man, if I can get all my chores and stuff done right now in like 1 hour, as soon as I get up in the morning, I can do what I want for the rest of the day. So like I really understood that concept. So every single job I've ever been, I mean, I used to be a librarian actually, and I was a branch manager of a library in California. And they would have these due dates for paperwork, right? And there would be, oh, this is due on the 5th, this is due on the 10th, this is due on the 15th. On day one of every single month, I would attack and get it all done. So then I don't have to worry about it the
Yeah.
rest of the month. And
I
so
love
it
that.
has served me so well that I'm on a mission so that I can do nothing. So I'm going to just destroy all my work and be as productive as possible to get it all done, which is exactly what those kids are learning.
Yep.
And so that I can get the money and go do what I want to do.
That's what I was telling my daughter. My daughter is like, why are you working 7 days a week between these different jobs right now? And I said, I'm building my media empire. I've got this, right now stuff's not there yet, but I know it will be because the quality of the content that I'm putting out in this and this and this and this is there. Right now, I'm front loading. I'm doing the work because eventually one of them or all of them are going to click and it's game time,
Yep.
Hold on one second. What are you doing back there, dude? I have I've got a ton of animals in my room. I got a bearded dragon over there, and he's decided that it's time to now escape from his location.
I
But
have one cat who can show up at any moment.
that's awesome. I
She
love
looks
cats on
like-
podcasts because they jump right in front of the camera. They're like, "Sup? How you doing?"
Yeah. Well,
Always.
what my clients always enjoy is she'll jump right over here, and then you'll see a paw go across the screen because she's trying to get my attention.
That's rad. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love cats for that. They are cool.
Yeah.
I want you just touched on something though that I want to circle back on. And it's something that I was pointing out as well, and something I've been talking to my daughter about. And I am a huge fan of during the last couple of years, I was just, especially during all things lockdown and stuff like that, there was not a lot to do. Like it was this time period where the world was going like this. Ha ha. And like we were just like, wow. And one of the things that we talked about, I started reading a lot about Stoicism and the one of the basic ideas of Stoicism, and it's nothing fantastical for people who don't know about Stoicism. It's like the granddaddy of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's kind of like a Western version of, it's a Western philosophy, but the fundamental idea is in Stoicism is the dichotomy of control. And that concept has been borrowed from, the Alcoholics Anonymous, the prayer, God grant me the strength to control the things I can. Or I don't know how it goes, but essentially the dichotomy of control is what can you control and what can you not? What can I control? Right now, I've got my to-do list that I'm going through. I can't control how many people watch this episode, but I can control my preparation. I put together a list of questions. I can control kind of being funny and coming up with some fun things so it's more fun to listen to. I can control my lighting. I can control what camera I'm shooting on. I can control my microphone. And I can control the editing. But there's a ton of things I can't control. The internet connection, I can't control if my bearded dragon's going to decide that it's suddenly the moment to get the zoomies around his enclosure. But you know what? There are things that you can control. Now, you talk about controlling money. Now, what money choices can you control even when things around you feel out of control?
That's funny. have you been watching my Instagram? Because for this last week, I literally just did a whole week on what you can't control. I literally was just doing that.
Dude, I love it.
Um, you know, it's funny. I feel like there's quite a few things you can control. I mean, number one, you can control what's going on the inside because, when it comes to money, it's a symptom of every single thing else that's going on in your life. I
Yeah.
was just talking to a client yesterday who, they always end up like, oh, this is supposed to be about money. Now I feel like I'm in a counseling session. I'm like, well, we have to talk about these other things because if you have, for example, if you have bad boundaries in your life and you're saying
Yeah.
yes to everybody, then your money's going to suffer. And that's one of those things you can control. So, so a few things, just to break it down, you can control your spending. You can control what you say yes to, what you say no to. You can control the people you surround yourself with, your
I love that.
accountability. You can hire a coach. You can pick friends that aren't going to press you all the time. Well, we got to go out. We got to keep going out. I mean, I feel like I've seen everybody from every aspect of life, rich and poor, just you're just surrounded by people. Like, for example, people who even do good things. It's not like let's go and party every night. I had a couple years ago who they could not stay on the budget and they could not get out of debt because there was a fundraiser or some sort of church event all the time, and because it's for God, we have to spend our money all the time and we can't stay in budget.
Yeah.
And I've always felt, I'm a Christian myself, and I'm just like, but it's not your money. And
Yeah.
if you're a slave to a lender over here,
Yep.
in my mind, that's not actually being up and up with your money. I feel like that's sinful because I'm giving, well, but you owe,
Yeah.
so you have to figure that out. And and you can control, your house. You can control that, your budget. And especially, in this highly charged political arena right now where we are just throwing blame at everybody, you can control who you blame. And it's best to blame yourself.
Right.
A
Right.
coach taught me that, like whenever I have an issue, the first thing I do is blame myself. What can I do? Is there anything I can do? What can I learn? And of course, we never want to go too far with that where we're just blaming ourselves for everything. But you see what you can do, you try to learn from it, and then you let it go. As long as you learn something, that's great. But then that's no longer valuable and you have to move forward.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because it's at the end of the day, you what was it? I there was that old thing when you're pointing at someone, you've got four fingers or three fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
Four fingers.
Yeah.
Aim my thumb like this. But it's like it's kind of a weird thing, right? It's actually like three. You got two going that way, but still, there's a lot more coming back at you than going out. And the thing is that if you let me pick myself for an example. I could blame my lack of financial education on my parents. I could blame it on my education, my school. I could blame poor credit choices from all those credit card companies that set up in the colleges. There's a ton of things that I can point at, but the reality is, when I got credit cards, I was the one who went shopping. When I got my paychecks, I was the one who went out and bought stupid things. At the end of the day, no one's making you do anything. Certainly, there is some very convincing marketing and advertising out there. Certainly, there are places that we are without information, but it's still you. It's still you going and doing it,
Well,
And
I'm sorry.
no. And I'll pass it back to you, but I was going to say really quick, it's you that can fix it too. That's the beautiful part.
Well, when I think, and this is from a few different clients over the years, but you had a hard day, right? And
Yeah.
so, I don't want to make dinner, so I'm just gonna, get some food on the way home. Oh, I don't really want to get food on the way home. I want to get food delivered to me. So now, it just keeps going up. Okay,
Yeah.
now, man, I really want to finish watching Love is Blind 3. So I'm going to stay up till 11, 12 o'clock at night to watch that after I've already spent this, right? I get up. Oh, I have to have my coffee or my energy drink to get going. I got to go by the gas station to get that. Oh my
Yep.
gosh, today was a terrible day at work because I'm tired. Right? And then, so you can see right there how up, 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 and it just keeps going. And so what I try and teach folks is that we need to get the ball rolling, and it's either going to be going negatively or you can have momentum building positive. So really about, you have to get the positive momentum, and that's what's the tiniest choice. One thing you can do to start turning that momentum each day towards a more positive thing. And then guess what? You're going to get better results. And really, I mean, if people would just make sleep the number one priority, so many better things, so many things would be better off for them.
100%. Sleep is a huge one, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like sleep deprived right now.
Yeah.
Right? But one of the things too, like I was teaching a podcasting class at university, and I'm going to be teaching this podcasting class again at this school, and I'm going to do things really differently this time. But was one of the questions one of the students asked me, how can I have a successful podcast? And I was like, well, actually, I don't know. But I can tell you the things that I do know that can start you in that direction. And they're like, what is it? What's the magic, professor? I said, finish your next episode. Well, no, I mean, I got to have a grand plan. No, you just need to line the next thing up and knock it down. What? But what's your next video? Are you getting your next video? With my daughter's channel, we've got I climbed up to 11,000 subscribers on that channel. We hit a huge low. I don't understand the algorithms, but I don't care. All I know is that we just keep working on our next video. My editor's like, but what, should we be worried? It's like, no, we make great videos. They're interesting. They're fun. We keep getting better, but just make the next one. Keep continuously getting better, building that momentum and not dropping the ball. Because the worst thing you can do is to stop and to lose that momentum. Because once you lose the momentum, with YouTube, it's like starting all over. And I think the same is the same with finances. I notice when I'm tracking my spending, when I'm really keeping focused, if I slip one day and I don't track my spending, and then a week later I'll be like, whoa, what just happened? And then I'm trying to catch back up and I'm like, oh my goodness, and then where am I in regards to my budget? And then I notice I'm coming up short. And so building momentum really is huge. How do you start saving or spending money in a way that helps you reach your goals? How do you get that momentum going?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was going to actually poke at you a little bit.
Please poke away.
This will be a great example for everybody to see instead of just me saying it. So you talked about, that show, you talked about the media empire. Why? What's your reason why for doing all that?
This is interesting because I studied acting, and my acting teacher was phenomenal. Her name was Ivana Chubbuck. And Ivana works on two things. You have your scene goals and your character's overall goal. And every character has a overarching goal through their movie, whether it be, you think about like Harry Potter. What was Harry Potter's thing? Well, Harry Potter wanted to have a family. He wanted that feeling of safety because he never had that. His parents were killed when he was a kid, and he never felt like he belonged, right? So what is it for me? Why am I doing all this? First of all, I want to feel safe. I want to have a feeling of safety. I had many years where I didn't feel safe, partially because of finances, partially because of some health challenges. But my health challenges would have been made easier, if I had more money or had been better prepared financially for them. And now, on the flip side of that, I also want to do this to make the world a little bit better of a place for my daughter, so that when I'm not here, maybe the media that I created, maybe the content that I put out in the world can keep on working, even when I'm gone. Maybe some of the things that I can put out there. I remember as a teacher, I had one student come back to me 15 years after I taught her. It was about 5 years ago, and I taught her 20 some odd years ago. And she gave me this letter that you were the most influential person in my life. And I was just like, that hit home. And she says, I've tried to be a better person because of you. And I was like, I need to supercharge what I'm doing. I need to supercharge trying to inspire people. So that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I really feel like we can make our world a better place.
Yeah.
And that's the first
So,
step. So
so that question right there is where I start with all my clients, because at the end of the day, it can't be an outward trying to get you to do anything. You have to have your own motivation. It can't be me. It can't be anybody else. It has to be yours, or you're not going to do it. When it comes to anything in life, any behavior change that we have to do, it has to be our own thing. And so when you take that and you say, all right, I have this picture, and I have my clients, all of my clients do what I did with you. But then I say, all right, so before our next session, I want you to spend some time, pray, be quiet, turn off everything and just sit there and dream. Even, and a lot of my clients, they've been in debt and upset and stressed so long that they don't even remember their dreams anymore. It's been just
I love
beat
it.
down like they're not allowed. So I even say, hey, go back, try and think back when you were 10 years old, before you were 20. What did you used to want to do? Because it starts to inject hope of, you can still do that. We just have to work towards it. And so when they get that picture, when I say high definition, I don't mean statistics. Like some people say, oh, I want to pay off my house. I want to have this, I want that. No, no, no. When you wake up in the morning, what does your home look like? One great example is I had these folks where I poked them on that. And they're like, I want to wake up. And these folks want to be farmers. I want to wake up to a goat staring me at, looking in my
That's
window.
rad.
you know and then I say, boom, there you go. So now when we're looking at 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 1-year goals, and just this month's budget, instead of, oh, I'm on a budget, so I can't do this and I can't do that. Ooh, that's negative. That's like you're in trouble all the time, or, oh, I'm not rich enough. No, when you're a bazillionaire, I expect you to be on a budget or I'll come and haunt you. So when they have that picture and they look at their budget, I was like, boom. Well, especially when you do it with your spouse, it's not going to be, oh, I want this in the budget and I want this in the budget. No, we say we want this picture for our lives. Is this being in the budget getting us to that or not? And if it's not, does it need to be in the budget? Or if we want that so bad, do we need to change this picture? Do we actually want this as bad as we want? So I always say your reason why should make you cry, because it needs to be strong enough so that you can say, I want this more than this. And all of you now, my clients, get it on a 3x5 card, put it in your car, wherever you're tempted to spend money where you don't really want to, put it in your car and say, no, I'm going to drive home and cook dinner because I'm fighting for this, not for this momentary thing.
I've got a vision of I would love to have a house in the mountains of the Rockies and to have 2 or 3 horses. And I know these are ridiculously expensive animals, but that's what I would love. I would love to be able to go out riding with my daughter. I'd love to have this place that's just peaceful and tranquil. And if I can remember that, that can help me not to go and buy that thing that just seems fun, but might be fun for 2 days, because I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, write it down, plaster it everywhere. When I wanted to go to Disney World for the first time, it was on the background of my computer, and I'm looking at it every single day.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we want? And then one of my, one of my big reasons why is when I look at, because actually I've been out of debt for 7.5 years, still going strong. My wife and I, took us about 3.5 years to get out of debt originally. And one of my reasons is that when I look at, the hurricanes that just came through here in the States,
Right.
when I'm looking at that, like, I want to be able to, at the drop of the hat, say, I'm going to go fill the car with water and go. I'll see you in a bit.
Right.
And I want to just go help because I can, and not because, it blows my mind. That's one of my reasons for becoming a coach in general. When I'm looking at the world and I think about, Sean, how many folks are enslaved to debt, that are we missing out on the cure for cancer, some sort of genius of
Yes.
a kid who hasn't had these opportunities because they're just in debt? How much are we missing? Because, for example, my parents growing up, it was always, oh, we can't tithe. We can't help anybody but ourselves. We can't help anybody but ourselves. Like, man, if I could get even 5% more of the world helping more people than just themselves and keeping themselves afloat all the time, that would be a huge change for everybody.
There was a movie that I saw a clip from th- when I was posting earlier this week, and it was John Goodman. I think it was the movie was with Mark Wahlberg, and it was The Gambler. And I don't remember the whole movie, but there was this one scene where John Goodman does this, probably one of the best scenes I've ever seen him in. And he sits there and he talks about, I will say the clean version. He's talking about FU money. And what the whole point was talking about money in a way that he said you need to get yourself set up financially so that if you, and I'll say see ya instead of other words, that if someone had, you're in a job that's not working for you, you can say see ya. You're in a place that is, you got a problem, you can look at that situation and say see ya, I'm out. You whatever it is, you have enough money to just step away from stuff. You have the money to stand up and say, hey, I want to help this person. You have the money to, you say, you see a person. And this is like the thing that I used to be around people who were Christian, and I grew up Christian as well, that were, money is the root of all evil. And I said, you know what? I came to the point where I realized if you don't have your financial house in order, how can you help anyone? You're driving down the street and you see a person who has no clothes, and let's say that you take off your clothes and give them to that person. That's great. But what if you have no more money to buy yourself clothes and you can't? Then you have nothing to help. So if you have your life in financial order, you have a space that you can do things, or even if it's helping yourself, because that person, we think, oh, I'm going to help someone else. But you look at the situation where, like you mentioned, these natural disasters, it's great to be able to drop everything and go help people. But what if it's you? Can you help yourself if that is an event that is brought down upon you? And it's scary to think about that. But again, it comes back to our first point of what can you control and what you cannot. We can't control a natural disaster, but you sure as heck can prepare an emergency savings account so that if something does come, then you're ready for it. You can make sure that you have your debt paid down so that if you are out of work for a period of time, you don't start defaulting on all of your loans. There are ways that you can start preparing for the inevitable.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things there. I love all that. You know, with that saying, money is the root of all evil. That's one of the most taken out of context, because the actual
Right.
verse says money is the root of all kinds of evil. And people just
Right.
shorten it to that. Like, that's not true. And so that's always been a pet peeve of mine, because it's kind of like where it's a bummer, because it has changed a lot of the folks where, oh, you're rich, you're automatically evil.
Yeah.
Because of that. That was one of the biggest reasons people think that. And then I think it's a real disservice to everyone, because then it's like, oh, why do I want to be like that?
Yeah.
And so hopefully changing that and making it more of a positive, good thing, will help people, because we need more wealthy people with good hearts,
Yes, we do.
to help things. And on the side of what things we can control as well is, saving. Like I said, I've been out of debt for the past 7.5 years. How do you stay out once you get out? You have to save for things. There needs to be a car savings fund. There needs to be a savings fund for things that are going to happen. Christmas shouldn't be a surprise. Insurance shouldn't be a surprise. Medical expenses shouldn't be a surprise. House things that need to be repaired. You're going to have to replace your roof. And so many folks, they get into I'm just financing everything. No, save for it, plan it. I think, I don't remember the exact percentage now, but when you buy a house, there's supposed to be a certain percentage that you put back, every single month throughout the year for house repair things. And so, teaching folks to do that, and I always say to my clients, and this mindset is good for everybody to remember, is that the poor ask how much a month and the rich ask how much. And so if you can start changing your mindset and what you do to that, you're going to be a lot better off. Even, I mean, I started out small when I was still in debt. Okay, Amazon subscription. Oh, I'll save $20 if I just pay for it instead of paying it month by month. When Disney Plus first came out, I got this deal where I could buy it for 3 years. I'm like, I'll buy it for 3 years. And when everybody else has now ended up paying $8 a month, when I put it out and see what it is over 3 years, I'm paying two. And those types of things give you more money over the course of every year. And you have that positive momentum that I'm talking about, and you have more money to invest, more money to save, and then you're rolling. And so many folks, and this is another pet peeve, and I'll just keep preaching. Um, there is
Preach on,
so
man.
there is so much poor tax out there. It angers me, when you go to a poor neighborhood or whatever, and you see check into cash and all this crap. That is just this is the easy way out. Pay as you go. That's just screwing them. That's just making their lives harder with another payment, another way to not be. So my mission is margin, margin, margin. You need margin in your time. You need margin in everything else so that you can actually change your life. Boom.
I love the mic drop moment right there, man. You're spot on. And I think that, so you are right. There are, especially, it is so easy to go, well, you know what? I'll just put that on this. No, prepare. And I mean, people don't think about it. We just had an air conditioner go out, and we have small air conditioner units that go for different rooms. We had one go out, and it's about $500-600 actually to get it repaired, or to get a new one. And we were just, and it's like, we hadn't budgeted for that. It's like, but we should have. We should have sat there and said, all right, eventually an AC is going to go out, so we need to have this amount of money ready for that. And we had a roof that just went out, and we have the guy in that is fixing the roof. And we he was the one who put that roof in, and we are like, hey man, it's like, why is the roof leaking? And he's like, because that's what happens. It was 5 years ago, And he's like, this type of roof lasts for about 5 years. And we were, it's not fun, and you want to get angry at someone, but the only person that you can get angry at is yourself for just not preparing for it.
Well, and let's stop being surprised that life is happening. Let's
100%.
stop being surprised. It's going to happen. It's not a surprise. And I'll tell you, those moments, especially, for Christmas, folks always say how stressful it is. Man, when you just have the money sitting there and you see a present for Uncle Al in July, it's so nice. It feels so good, and it takes the stress out of it. I mean, so many folks, they're just hoping for that 1 5 paycheck month, right before December. That's where I'll get my Christmas gifts from. So many of my clients live that way, and that makes it not fun. And when you have the money for it, you're allowed to be a lot more thoughtful. And then when you think about it, Sean, when you take just that piece and then you add it to another piece, guess what? Our stress is going.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden our weight is going down because we're not so stressed, and we're not stress eating. And it's all connected. It's all connected.
I'm really proud of, so we have the 2 employees that work for me are on a 13-month contract. Essentially, we pay them for 12, and at the end of 12 months, they get a 1-month bonus. That's kind of how they do it in Vietnam, so that at the end of the Lunar New Year, everyone gets that 13th month.
Oh, cool.
And about, what was it, in September, I sat down my employees, and I said, I'm going to start I'm going to break that 13th month, and from now till December, you guys are going to get a fourth of that each month. And they were like, but why? Why not just give it to us at once? And I said, because I have it now, and I'm budgeting for it now, and it's just easier to do it now. And they're like, oh, we're going to spend it. I said, that's on you. That's on you. That's not on me. But It was interesting because that 13th month was inevitable. But if I had waited till December, and December rolls around, and I'm just like, so I mean, it is so true. We have the ability to plan ahead. We have the ability to remember this stuff is going to happen. And, if you can just preempt it and say, just be awake. And I think part of it is becoming conscious of your money patterns, becoming conscious of your spending, becoming conscious of all of this stuff. Because I think for so much of it, so many people are like, there was that picture of the ostrich with its head in the sand. Even though the ostriches do not actually do that, it's still a fun concept, and we would see that all the time in Acme. But the idea of just hiding yourself from the realities that are out there.
Oh, I mean, so many clients, they don't want to look at their bills. They don't want to look at their accounts. They don't want to see it because they have so much fear. But the fear is keeping it in the dark.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you could possibly do is keep it in the dark, and it's only getting worse. So, Sean, so in a couple months, because this is, and just, this is for you and everybody else. Um, in about the last week of December, my wife and let's have a date and talk about what we want to accomplish in the next year. What money do we want to have for Christmas? What money do we want to have for birthdays or travel or whatever? So I challenge you to have a sit down. Are you married?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Have a sit down and let's have a date, and then let's think about what do we want to do this next year, and then boom, start in January. How do you break those things up? And there you go. And I'll reach out to you to make sure you did it.
I will. I love it because for me, I'm all about planning for success, because I try to think about, I was watching this one documentary, and it was talking about the pyramids and how they were built. And it's like, it's really fun for people to sit there and go, it was aliens, it was this. But the reality was, it was people hauling stones, one stone at a time. And yet, if you have a vision, if you have a plan, you can build something great. You think about that, going back to early Amazon, Amazon.com. Jeff Bezos built that one book at a time. He sat down and how was Apple computers built? One computer at a time. They started out with a good idea and they just started building these things. But if you have a plan, and it's not a plan for forever, but if you set out and start getting a course, I love talking about the old wayfarers of old, the people that would steer boats across the ocean. Can you imagine that? Like, we're going to cross the Pacific. We have a month and a half to do it, or something like that, and it's like, and you have stars, you have a direction, but you have to know which way you're going. You have to know where you're going. You have to have a vision. Okay, we're going to sail from here near Ecuador westward toward Japan, and it's like, well, you have a general course and then you start reorienting. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a way set, then you will get lost. And it's easy to get lost. It's easy to go in circles if you do not have that course set.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because life is hard, and like you were saying, reorienting, so many folks, and we run into it daily where, oh, January, I'm going to do this. I'm so excited for January. And then 3 weeks in, something happens, something tragic happens, your car breaks down, whatever. And all of a sudden, the whole thing falls apart. And then it's June.
100%.
And you haven't done much.
My daughter, I've been teaching her martial arts. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, Japanese style jiu-jitsu, which is like judo. And I trained Muay Thai for a long time. But I'm teaching my daughter striking, some Muay Thai striking. And we've been doing our martial arts classes. But then my wife got really busy because she's a entertainer and musician, and she needed my help with many things. So I kind of dropped the ball on working with my daughter. And yesterday my daughter said, "Daddy, I want to get back to our training." And I said, let's do it. Let's do it. Because you can always, again, it comes back to that personal power. I want to ask you one last question before we finish up. If you could go back and give your younger self, some financial advice, what would it be?
Don't go into debt.
I love that.
I mean, that would be the first thing, because I just didn't know. I didn't know. And with that, that's what we all need. The kids need to know, because I'm coaching folks that are in their 60s. that are stressed, that have no retirement, that are having to rely on their kids.
Yeah.
And if you can get stubborn early and get that behavior early of I don't live my life this way. I'm not going into debt at all. Then that will carry you through, and you'll be more spunky. You'll be more resourceful. Because I mean, truly, the easy way out is, oh, just get a student loan. But as we know, there's
Yeah.
that's there there is money that has is just left on the table year after year, thousands and thousands of dollars of kids just actually not finishing the scholarships that they could be
Yeah.
doing because just just get it done. I just want to
Yeah.
buy a new car. 25,000 bucks. Oh, I'll just buy a new car. I'll pay for it later. So that's what I would tell myself. Because that is the key, is to get stubborn. And I'm just going to keep going. And if I have $1,000 car, that's fine. I'll trade up in a year to a $3,000 car, and the more money I get, I'll trade up to a $10,000 car. That pencil to a Rolls Royce. It could happen.
It does. I had a friend in college who pulled that off. He started with an old beat up Honda Civic, and then 7 months later he was driving an Acura NSX. And I was like, how did you do this, man? And he was like, well, I bought a car, I fixed it, made it nicer, and sold it. And he just did it. And like, he went from the piece of crap car to an NSX. And like, I this was in the 90s, and it was like, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And it was just a little bit of work and being smart. And he made smart choices. Not always, but he did with cars.
And it's just the idea of it's not, no, it's just not right.
Yeah.
That's it.